Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Profiles in Risk. I am your host, Nick Lamparelli. This is a promotional episode. I have my good friend, Jim Daggett, who's with me. He is the founder, leader of ITA, and I want to welcome him to Profiles in Risk. We're going to have a great conversation.
Excellent. Thank you for having me, Nick. I'm excited to be here on this podcast with you, and just thanks again. Looking forward to talking to the insurance nerds community.
So I met you 3 years ago at one of your events, ITA Live in Fort Lauderdale. We're coming up to the third anniversary, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on to talk about that, talk about ITA, and talk about you. And so I always start off all of these conversations by giving you a little bit of a soapbox and just allowing you to describe who you are and what you do. So before we completely rewind the tape, who is Jim Daggett and what is ITA?
Thanks, Nick. And third anniversary of you attending our conference, and our sixth annual conference. I can't believe it's six. I can't believe I still have hair after these 6. But really excited. Our event is a bit different, and with that, let me rewind to the beginning of how I got into insurance.
Fine.
In the first
Let's
place.
do that.
I think for most of us in the insurance industry, nobody ever really planned when they were in high school or meeting with their guidance counselors, I'm going to be an insurance professional. I'm going to be in the insurance industry. So it's kind of an omen. I was going through college, and my first job out of college, I worked for Dun & Bradstreet, Fortune 500 company, great company to work for. And as I worked through the chain up and got a promotion into their marketing database division, one thing that was important to the company that we had to learn were SIC codes. I was a young man. My first manager said, all right, you got to learn all of these database codes, these SIC codes, standard industrial classification.
I was gonna ask you, for those that don't know, standard industrial classification codes.
That's it. And it must have been an omen for me to be in insurance, because my manager said, all right, let's start with your phone extension is 6411. 6411 is the standard industrial classification for the insurance industry. So I started learning about insurance, and I started working with some of D&B's insurance customers and providing third-party data services to them. That's kind of how I got my feet wet in the insurance industry. And from there, I moved on. I worked for .com in the late 90s, early 2000s, which was a blast. I was, by the way, supposed to be retired at this point with all the stock options I had in that .com. And
I know a lot of folks that probably could have retired at the very peak, and then the bubble blew up, and now they're still working.
Yeah, and good problem to have. I love to work. I love the industry that I'm in. And one of our sweet spots for that .com were companies that had large disparate sales forces. So franchisers was one sweet spot for that .com. The other, of course, was insurance. Huge number of agents and agency force out in the marketplace. So we automated direct mail process and really dove in and working with insurance carriers and technology at that .com. We had an amazing technology, automated direct mail process that allowed carriers to control the messaging that their agent force set out with compliance and regulation. Also put up a geofence around their territory so they didn't infringe on other agents that were in their marketplace from a competitive standpoint.
Okay.
And it was a really great time working for us, going to a polar opposite, working from a Fortune 500 company to my first day at the .com was, there's your desk, it's in a box, put it together and get it going. So had great experience in learning from that smaller organization standpoint and how to work with insurers. And also quickly learned it's being a startup, it was the most risk adverse industry there is. They wanted to look at financials. We didn't have many, as we were, more focused on top line revenue than bottom line revenue. And we worked with organizations like MetLife, just to name one, that was a big carrier, and how long that sales process was. So it gave me a really good, solid understanding. Long story short, after 9/11, I kind of transitioned to B2B media. and I was working with a good friend of mine in the capital market space at Source Media, who owns Insurance Networking News, now Daggett. Worked there for about 5 years and had an opportunity. The capital market space is so complex in the number of financial instruments compared to insurance. And I had the opportunity, there was an opening at the National Underwriter Company to come back to insurance as a publisher of Tech Decisions magazine. So I quickly jumped at that opportunity as I already had some background in insurance. I really enjoyed my work there and spent almost a decade at the National Underwriter being the publisher of Tech Decisions, also Claims magazine, and eventually also overseeing their Claims magazine and ACE conference, their national claims conference. So that went on for like a decade and really loved the technology segment of the marketplace. It was just a great group of people, formed not only business relationships, but some great friendships, like you and I, Nick, and many others in the marketplace. Just
Which I'm connecting the dots because now I know how you know Jennifer Overholtz and Mark Roth. So
yes,
all the way back to National Underwriter.
yeah. So my first day at Tech Decisions, actually, I had lunch with Mark Roth as he transitioned away and went to IASA at that time. And yeah, I would have never known at that point Mark and I would become such good friends, and we're still working together to this day.
So a couple of things that I just learned from that, besides now connecting dots with our mutual friends, is one is you have a tech background and you've been in insurance. And I think a lot of folks that are probably listening to this who might be new to the insurtech, fairly new word, I think might be surprised that there were actually people trying to solve this problem before they were. Like that this is a new thing, and tech coming into insurance is a new thing, but in reality, it's not. The tech issues, the tech problems, the tech backbone that exists in insurance, these things have been around for quite some time, and you've been actively marinating in that environment, right? So can you talk a little bit about that as well, like the tech that you've seen at the beginning of your career and how it's evolved to now, and maybe transition to why ITA even needs to exist?
Sure. And to the ITA, I'll preface this conversation, this part of the segment with, we created the ITA as a service for the industry, having a really good understanding of what informational needs there are for insurance, IT, and business executives. We publish a magazine, we have an industry conference, we do some smaller meetups, we have a website and e-newsletter that support that. But really the tip of the spear for the ITA is our advisory board. We have an advisory board of insurers that are IT and business professionals that are really our guiding hand. We're any of the topics in the magazine or at the conference that we're talking about, we're using our advisory board as our guiding hand to say, Jim, these issues and topics are top of mind for us. This is what we'd like to see in the magazine. This is what we'd like to see at the conference as well. So we're kind of shaping content based on what we're hearing from the industry, because if it's not valuable to our board, it won't be to their peers in the industry.
So why did you leave? Why did you leave a cushy job to start ITA and have this, as we were talking before it hit record, 7-day-a-week job that's, where there's a lot of stress and you have to, a lot of stakeholders and a lot of people that want your attention and solutions and deal with all of that. Why did ITA get off the ground? How did you do it?
Yeah, so I found we're private company, found some private investment money, and it was just a great opportunity because the direction I saw the company I was working for, they were becoming more product centric with database marketing, leaving the grounds of a traditional publishing company. And what may have worked well for one segment of insurance, for instance, the agent distribution force, those informational needs were not the same as an insurance IT and business executive. So I just saw an opportunity to really create something unique and valuable for the industry. That's a service, and we're really serving to be a conduit between the buy and the sell side, the insurance executives, and then also the vendor executives that are looking to, uh, prove their worth and prove their value
Yeah.
to the insurance industry. And it's going back to what you said earlier, your question on, just kind of marinating and observing this industry for such a long time, where technology was trying to serve insurance, and that's been going on, for years now. I think the difference in where we're at in this point of the game today is you have, um, I guess technology has been adapted, and it is adapted so much faster than it ever has been before, that kind of gap of predictability of what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4 years has become even shorter, that
Yeah.
you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I remember, Nick, I don't know if you've ever been, a company called SunGuard used
Hmm.
to host these meetups all over the country called SunGuard Days. And I'll never forget the day that the presenter had a tablet in his hand. And it was before tablets became mainstream. And he said, these devices are going to change everything. They're going to change every industry that we work in. And I think what he didn't realize was it wasn't the tablet, it was the
Yeah.
phone. He was pretty close. And that has changed so much, just consumer buying behaviors, the way organizations look to approach their markets has become so different.
Yeah. You know what else has changed is there's so many new entrants coming in that it's difficult to be heard. It's difficult for tech providers to be able to market their solutions to the right audience. And I would like to segue into ITA Live because that is what I saw when I went to your first conference. And I'll say, like, there have been other conferences, and there are now, and it was the first one that I was aware of and saw that was trying to get the solution providers, the tech providers, and the insurance executives in the same place at the same time to have these open discussions. So it was the first time that I saw that, and that was 3 years ago. You said you've been doing it for 6 years. That was 3 years ago, and it's gotten even more complex. There's there are more solution providers than you can wave a stick at. So let's talk about ITA Live, your big annual event. Give us the dates, and let's talk about the mission of that and what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Great. And IT Live, our sixth annual conference, is going to be in Hollywood, Florida. We've always hosted in South Florida. This year it's April 5th to the 7th. We always try to keep the same format, kicking off on a Sunday afternoon and concluding early Tuesday afternoon. So really like a 2.5-day conference. But our goal and mission, and you said big event, it's never will be a big tent event. We don't do a trade show type setting or exhibits. For our vendor sponsors and the technology participants, we do have an area where they have branded signage, and during the networking breaks, it's a time to meet with those vendors at their own table, or if you wish. But the goal of the conference is to create a polar opposite from a big tent event. There are some amazing big shows out there. InsurTech Connect, Jay and Caribou have done an amazing job with that event. There's Dig In, that's another amazing event. ISA. You have a lot of these large type settings where you can go and walk the exhibit hall floor. You can go attend breakout sessions. Our goal is to bring all of our participants, and maybe we should call it the IT Live 100, because it's always been around the 100, 125 people mark, into the same room and have a balanced ratio of insurers to vendors. And what that's created is kind of an open dialogue. We do everything general session room. We don't break out. We do a keynote speaker each day. This year we've got Dr. Robin Chiara from Digital Scouting.
Nice.
We have a couple of really prestigious CEOs that are going to have a conversation. Rusty Sproat and Tim Attia. So Rusty's from FIGO Pet Insurance, of course, and Tim is from Slice Labs. I think many people know those two gentlemen.
Yeah. He won an award when as either the tech company or the tech person of the year 3 years ago when I was there.
Yes.
So that always come full circle, and he's keynoting.
yeah. Tim has won an award, and I think that cover, ITA Pro Magazine won an award that year because we did something unique. We had a dual cover. We had a cover story on the front of the magazine. We also had a cover story on the back of the magazine. And both those covers were Tim and Rusty.
Yeah.
So it has come full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and we have unique content. We pride ourselves on finding content or curating, developing content that really hasn't been seen at other events before, at other conferences. So we try to shape that to really challenge all of our participants' current way of thinking, to be engaging and interactive. And one thing that we started differently this past year, or last year, Nick, was as observing the conference every year, I could see on Monday is such a long day. We start at 7:30 with breakfast and go all the way through 5 o'clock with content and sessions. By the time 2, 3 o'clock rolls around, people are starting to get tired.
Yeah.
Seeing talking heads all day. So we stop at about 2:30, 3 o'clock. We take a break and we come back and we have topics up on the projector, numbered tables. All the participants can choose a topic that they want to talk about that might be top of mind for them with their peers, and sit down and just have a conversation and engage with each other. It gives everybody a chance to interact, maybe break away from your clique of people that you kind of tend to congregate with, and meet new people at the conference.
Yeah.
And have an engaging conversation. So that went really well. The participants loved it. We have kind of a roundup the following day with panel discussions. Each topic will have a leader, if you will, or a subject matter expert around that topic. And they'll sit on a panel the next day and share what was maybe the most surprising comments that they heard, or kind of a common theme, or something that was completely out of the box around that topic.
Yeah.
And I think that brings a level of uniqueness to our conference where it's an open dialogue.
Yeah. And this is going to be a silly question because I already know the answer. How satisfying is it when you see, incumbents and vendors get together and actually walk away from ITA Live and fulfill one another's needs? I know the answer is immensely, but what I'm really striving to get is that it's got to be a little bit more than that. Like it's got to be just satisfying from a general sense that you're able to kind of house that and kind of put those pieces together, beyond just the personal relationships that you've developed with these people, that ITA has become like a forum to actually get deals done in a way.
It's when I hear feedback from either an incumbent carrier, or we have incumbent carriers from prestigious organizations that sign up again year after year, and they tell me that they are getting immense value from the educational sessions, the vendors that they're meeting, where they made a great connection, and how those relationships have lasted. And it's kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier. It's a long sales cycle for a lot of these vendors, but to be able to make a meaningful connection and have a dialogue over a couple days, and be able to connect with somebody on a level that you might not in a bigger environment where the schedule's a bit rushed and harried. We take that down a notch. So our goal is to create a tempo where people can interact and scratch beneath the surface and get to know each other.
Yeah.
So that just feels amazing when I hear that vendors and carriers are getting immense value from the event.
Yeah. It's an issue. And again, the other conferences are great, but the kind of the sentiment I get afterwards is that they, circus-like atmosphere where you're running around, and the quality of the meetings are at a very low level. You can't really get into any sort of intimacy because someone has to run to the next meeting, someone has to run to the next session. There's almost not enough time, and you've purposely set the number count in a way where folks can have the time to network, they can have the time to be intimate, but I think more importantly, they're likely to continuously over the period of 2.5 days to keep bouncing off of each other. So they can continue the conversation. It doesn't have to end because someone has left and is running around like crazy, but they're likely to bump into each other at dinner. or in the hallway or in one of the other sessions where the conversation can naturally continue. I don't want to throw the word friendship out. That's probably too intimate, but there's a level of credibility that gets developed when you can, someone feels as though they know you in a way where they can stop you in the hallway and say, let's continue the conversation. Was that purposeful that you wanted to set up the number count that way?
Yeah, we really wanted to create an environment ecosystem where there isn't a lot of competition on either side. And at that number, at that volume of people, that's what we're achieving. So from the technology vendor side, you don't have a tremendous number. You don't have all your competitors there in the room. You may have one or two. And from the insurer side, it is the same objective. They don't have a lot of competitors in the room where they have to mind kind of the P's and Q's at a table. We don't want to give up this information. It kind of opens the dialogue where people can be a bit more open, talk a little bit more freely without having to police themselves on what they're saying.
Right,
so
right.
That's part of the objective with the event as well.
Yeah. Can we give a shout out to some of your sponsors? Give someone that has not been to an event a flavor for the type of entities that are planning on attending and that support this.
Absolutely, and if I leave anybody out, I'd feel remiss about that. So, just some organizations that have been supportive of us from the get-go. Guidewire, of course. My good friends at Castle Bay Consulting, they've been a huge supporter. Maple Tech. A lot of people don't know about Maple Tech, by the way. They're a small kind of boutique outfit. They don't do a lot of trade shows. There's a lot that's typical to a core systems provider that many of them do that Maple doesn't do. However, you'd be surprised to know that they're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Nick Titelli, my good friend at Maple Tech. He's the CEO, and his partners, Matt Blackley and Don Honeycutt. That's another one. Highland Software, those folks have always been a big supporter of us. We greatly appreciate them. And all of our sponsors, InsureSoft, but you really put me on the spot with this one, Nick.
Well, we're gonna put a link to the ITA Live page, which will have a list of all the sponsors on there, and it is April 5th through 7th.
Yes.
Hollywood, Florida, which is right next to Fort Lauderdale, short drive from the airport, and I will be there. We'll have other members of the Insurance Nerds team there, so I have been there. I can vouch for the event. It's an intimate event. It's high quality. So this gets beyond just having meetings. These are meetings that lead to solutions. And so for those that haven't checked it out, I highly recommend that you do. Come visit us. I will have a camera ready. We're going to record it, and we're going to record some of the event itself and share it with the audience so you can get a flavor for what's going on there. But April 5th through 7th, Hollywood, Florida. The link will either be above me or below me. It depends on how we edit this. And Jim, I'm looking forward to meeting you again.
Absolutely, Nick. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. And just to go back to one thing you said, high quality. We moved the venue this year. We've always been at the Marriott, so we wanted to switch it up. We're at the Diplomat Resort, which is a Hilton property. It's a beautiful setting on the beach, and there's plenty of amenities at this resort to make it a great experience, whether you want to spend a day before the event begins or hang out for a day after. It's a great venue to do that. As you mentioned, it's only 15 minutes or so from the airport. But also, what we've designed into this event are some of the networking gatherings. So we've created a gathering the opening night right after the keynote. We have a cocktail hour with food and hors d'oeuvres where people can mingle and chat in a relaxed setting for a couple hours. The meals, the breakfast, we do a top shelf breakfast and a lunch where everybody can sit down and sit with different people, break away from your go-to clique and sit down and meet with somebody new.
Yeah.
We do that.
I remember that first night 3 years ago. So I remember specifically, I don't remember who, but we had just started the podcast just like a month or so earlier than that. And that night, I recorded a podcast, I edited one, I got it ready, and then quickly ran down and had a networking event and met a whole bunch of people that I had never met before at that networking event. It was
Yes.
fantastic.
And why don't we talk about you and I and Insurance Nerds and ITA, Nick? We're working together this year. I know
Yes.
I'm excited about that. So shoot on some questions for your audience on how we're working together and bringing value to the industry.
Well, I mean, my biggest thing and part of why I think working with ITA, why are we bringing a camera to this sort of event? And I think one of the single biggest problems that the tech side of the tech side of this equation struggles with is it's crowded, it's noisy, it's hard to get the word out. And so a part of our mission at Insurance Nerds is to provide that platform so that entities can get the word out. So our goal is to sit down with any of the vendor sponsors and give them a platform to talk about what it is that they're trying to do, so that we can broaden them to a larger audience. We call that marketing, and marketing is just a consistent messaging. And I think that's the right now the thing I worry most about tech companies that are trying to sell into the insurance ecosystem is that it's crowded and noisy, and insurance has a notorious long sales cycle. And so if you don't have a marketing message, you may die on the vine, even if you have the best solution. So I love our partnership because the companies are serious. It's an intimate environment, and we want to continue the momentum. You're there. You're having these great meetings. Let's continue the messaging so that when the exec from that insurance company departs, right, they're continuously being reminded that there's this great solution out there. And don't, let's change the sales cycle. Let's find the champions within the insurance organizations that can help marshal this through to execution. That's our goal, and that's why I specifically like partnering with ITA, because it's more intimate.
Great. And you couldn't have hit that note any better, Nick. I think one thing that I tell, and we really mean this, we're not looking for transactions. We're not looking for customers or just a customer to be a transaction. We're looking for partners that we can work together and benefit each other. We're all symbiotic to each other. How do we really bring value? And I think our partnership with Insurance Nerds kind of spreads our wings. IT is a small outfit. We don't have a huge number of employees. So working together with you guys, it allows us to create a continuity of that messaging after the event has concluded. The event is only a couple days, but how do we perpetuate that messaging over a period of time where it's for our customer partners? It's not just the event itself, but it continues on the web, it continues on social, in the pages of ITA Pro Magazine, which, by the way, I'm also really excited to have Insurance Nerds, yourself, Carly, and Tony as a new regular contributor to ITA Pro Magazine, which you'll see in the pages. By the way, the ITA Pro Magazine is a service to the industry. A bit of shameless self-promotion here. You can get your own copy. You can read Insurance Nerds' contributed article, whether you prefer a digital format or a print format. We're still doing print just a couple times a year.
I subscribe.
Yep.
I prefer it because I get it in the mail. I'm sitting at dinner. I can leaf through it and earmark pages that I want to read. It's again, bombarded with internet and email related stuff. It's still nice to have print here and there.
Well, what we talked about earlier, both of us have the common denominator of working remotely, is that a print magazine, turning the pages of something tangible, it gives you an opportunity to step away from your screen and kind of break away, to fall into just make some time for yourself, whether you're still doing work, but you're away from your screen for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So this has been a fantastic conversation. I hope we've enlightened some of you that have listened and encourage you to come, meet Jim, meet myself. I'll have my camera. For those of you that are attending, please step forward. We'll have a little area where we can do some recording and get you some publicity and all of that good stuff. and it's going to be warm, and it's going to be awesome. There's a place down the street that Mark and Jen took me to 3 years ago that had, I, I, I like seafood, not a huge fan, but the best crab. Like, and I'm not a crab guy, but man, this was absolutely delicious. So I got to figure out where that is and get some more of it because it was fantastic. So come with us. Come join us. Come join us for
Yes.
dinner and all that good stuff.
Please join us. We look forward to seeing you in Florida. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Nick, and the Insurance Nerds crew there.
Same, April 5 through 7th. The link will be up here or down there. Come join us, and I'll see you in a month and a half or so.
Excellent. Thanks for having
Okay.
me.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.
Take care.